A British airman is trapped in a Nazi prison camp, clutching a Monopoly board, but inside, hidden between the playing pieces, is a secret that could save his life. How did an ordinary board game become an escape tool for Allied POWs in World War II? And what was so special about those unassuming Monopoly sets that the Nazis never caught on? This is the true story of Monopoly boards as covert lifesavers, a tale more intricate than any game night legend. We begin not in a camp, but in London, where an obscure wartime office plotted secret schemes. It was called MI9, a hush-hush branch devoted to escapes and clandestine communications with prisoners of war. In 1941, MI9's Charles Fraser Smith, possibly the inspiration for Q and James Bond, faced a relentless puzzle: how to slip maps and tools past German guards. Guards searched every Red Cross parcel. Double-layered chocolate bars? Caught. Hollowed-out combs? Too suspicious. But a box of books or games, those were innocuous. Distraction, recreation, nothing to see here, sir. So what if an innocent board game could conceal everything a prisoner needed to break free? Enter John Waddington Liddy, famous for printing Monopoly under license for the UK market. Waddingtons in Leeds had expertise in fine printing and, crucially, they already made playing cards for MI9 with hidden messages. But Monopoly? Who would suspect a children's board game of leaking maps and tools into Nazi camps? MI9 approached Waddingtons with an unusual request. Could they disguise escape aids within Monopoly sets? It started with maps, delicate enough to fold invisibly, tough enough to survive rough hands and rain. Waddingtons had mastered the art of printing on silk, a wartime marvel that meant maps could be crumpled, washed, and even worn as scarves. Silk didn't rustle or tear when handled, unlike paper, making it ideal for stealth and survival. Tiny silk squares inked with charts of escape routes, railways, roads, rivers, destined for French forests or Italian mountains. But how do you slip a silk map into a Monopoly set without raising suspicion? Each kit had a hollowed-out recess inside the board or beneath the tray, deep enough for a folded map. The map might sit flush against the cardboard, entirely invisible unless you knew exactly what to look for. Sometimes thin slices were cut into the board's lining, barely discernible from ordinary wear or creasing. Sometimes the map was slipped under the property cards, camouflaged against a rainbow of Monopoly money. A POW could receive a box and, with trembling hands, peel away Park Lane, revealing a tiny silk lifeline. But maps aren't enough to crawl under barbed wire and cross occupied Europe. What else could a game box hold? Specially commissioned Monopoly sets hid more than silk under their cardboard layers. Within the familiar tokens, the top hat, the boot, a sliver of tiny file or compass might be embedded. These weren't heavy. The disguise tools had to pass for ordinary plastic or metal in a quick inspection. Some kits replaced two regular tokens with ones built to snap open, revealing a hidden cutting blade or minuscule compass inside. Even the dice could be drilled out and refilled with dust-fine maps, marked in foolproof code. Playing cards included in these kits sometimes had a film of directions pressed inside their glossy fronts, almost impossible to spot. Tiny, flexible saw blades about the size of 2 matches were wrapped in waxed paper and fitted within the money tray's wood slats or the cardboard insert. Wire cutters, files, even miniature compasses were all sized down to fit inside an envelope or the plastic coin holder. Glimmers of sharp steel hidden right beside yellow 20 notes and red hotels. For a prisoner, discovering a working saw blade in a Monopoly box must have felt like an impossible stroke of luck. A silent hope passed hand to hand under the guards' blank stares. But how did these subversive boards actually get past Nazi inspections? Red Cross parcels were a regular part of camp life, delivering food, books, games, and supplies from home. Germany had agreed under the Geneva Convention to allow these parcels, but always reserving the right to inspect every item. Parcels piled up in musty storerooms, guards breaking them open and digging through layers of straw and brown paper. Rumor had it the guards sometimes helped themselves to the tobacco and tinned sardines. But games? Harmless fun for bored prisoners. Sometimes guards even borrowed games themselves. Only a specially trained MI9 courier knew which parcels contained the escape kits. These couriers passed through numerous checks and intermediaries, using coded records to label parcels bound for known escapers. How could POWs know which Monopoly set hid a real escape kit, and not just a regular game? The true method remains classified, but most accounts agree on one thing: a coded marking somewhere on the game's packaging. Sometimes a barely visible mark on the box lid, a deliberate kink in the rule sheet, or a factory slip included by design. One story claims MI9 inserted predetermined folding creases, so if a prisoner ran his finger along the edge, he'd feel an unnatural bend, a silent wink from London. These subtle signals let POWs know when to tear carefully and where to search. But guards never noticed. A red hotel, a thimble, a bulge of cardboard, just toys for overgrown boys. In reality, the process of vetting, verifying, and delivering these Monopoly escape kits took trained hands and nerves of steel at every step. A single error, an off-center box label, a slip of silk peeking out, and the whole plan could collapse. But the system operated for years without being compromised. Different Monopoly sets were tailored for different European regions, each with unique maps suited to their theater of war. One version included an escape map of northern France, another, the mountains of Italy, another, the dense forests of Germany and Austria. French railway lines, Swiss mountain passes, even safe farmhouses were marked in tiny, perfect detail. Maps had to be small but legible enough to find a river crossing in moonlight or hide from a patrol near the border. They showed not just routes, but danger zones, where to expect German patrols, unreliable villages, or enemy fortifications. A POW could trace his finger across a silk square, memorizing the bends in a railway line by candlelight. These silk maps sometimes doubled as bandages or handkerchiefs, unrolled in moments of desperate need. But nobody could rely on a map alone. What went through a prisoner's mind when he found a full escape kit in a game box? First, the rush of hope. Then the risk. A search, a random check, a single loose tile, all could spell disaster. Yet thousands resisted the odds, hiding their precious maps along seams of uniforms or inside hollowed-out bunk boards. Escape-minded POWs sometimes would trade Monopoly kits among their trusted circle, each scanning for clues and sharing what they found. A compass tucked into a shoe, a file hidden in a toothbrush handle, saw blades in a tin of powder, nothing went unused. Some prisoners even used the game's colored Monopoly notes as camouflage for real forged currency, needed for any real getaway abroad. If you were caught, the penalty was severe, solitary, harsh interrogations, or worse. But many risked it, drawn by the possibility of freedom stitched into a child's game. So, did it work? Did Monopoly boards actually help Allied prisoners escape? We'll never know the full tally. Wartime secrecy, lost records, and the fog of myth have blurred the numbers forever. But survivors and MI9 officers credit escape kits with enabling many breakouts from camps like Stalag Luft III and Colditz. Several returned POWs later described finding their essential map or compass in an innocent-looking Monopoly set. The Great Escape from Stalag Luft III in 1944 involved dozens of contraband items, though which ones came in a Monopoly box is still debated. Decades after the war, former prisoners would touch pieces of silk or battered top hats and whisper thanks to MI9 and Waddingtons. After the war, officials destroyed records to protect methods and contacts, so not every story can be verified. But the British government has since acknowledged, Monopoly boards were, in fact, part of MI9's arsenal of escape aids. Waddington's staff were sworn to secrecy for decades, many only revealed their role late in life after official declassification. Their stories tell of midnight printing sessions, double-blind shipments, and decoys to throw off German suspicion. One worker remembered the odd thrill of running silk fabric through presses meant for only cardboard and ink. Printers tucked blades into boards while wartime sirens wailed over blackout leads. Each game was a calculated risk, a lifeline launched behind enemy wire. So, in every British attic or forgotten family trunk, a battered Monopoly set might still hide its secrets, an echo of desperate hope and silent war. Look at a Monopoly board on your next rainy day. Once, these tokens were more than toys, and the world's most famous game might just have been a passport to freedom. If you ever discover a silk square tucked in your family's old game box, pause, and remember the quiet ingenuity that changed real lives. History is everywhere, even in the games we play.